So I've got to make this indication. It is September 12th of 2021. I know what was being set up last year for September 12th, right? You know, Black September. And it's very disappointing. I'm just going to say this right off the hand. I have only talked to one person in Texas since I came back that's actually of Palestinian descent. It was somebody I knew from before. So when anybody else who's not Palestinian starts acting like somehow they're on some sort of tip where they're all down with playing Palestinian, and so they get to simulate that they are embodying stereotypes of Palestinian terrorists, including as hijackers of planes like the, I don't know, 777 that is the pension bill. And they do things where they intentionally gaslight you and do these simulations of incredibly illegal things because they think for whatever reason they're entitled to play at being Palestinian, including black Palestinians as part of Black September. I just can't take them seriously. It's like, it's incredibly offensive. And by the way, it's also incredibly anti Semitic because the intention is to play Palestinian in order to kill Jews. Because at the end of the day, they want to kill Jews so that then they can convert them. And I've been watching this the whole time I've been back with this horrendous horror about me. It's horrifying. It's absolutely, completely a travesty that somebody thought that this was okay to do. And the messed up thing is, it's actually in the official records of the State Department that they started this policy after the Affordable Care Act got implemented, where you can actually see it if you know how to look and how State Department policy was outlined for certain years in the treaties in force, describing the specific structural mechanism by which to effectuate this. And what they do is they engage in a misrepresentation of the role the State Department has when it comes to energy policy specific to the gas and oil sector, and the role of the gas and oil sector and the petrochem sector in healthcare, and how healthcare factors into other kinds of human resource acquisition networks to play this Palestinians and cowboys shit. That's how that's basically what it effectuates. You've got these cowboys playing around like they're some sort of Texas oil guy, and every place you're going to some sort of well check-in, and you get your resources, and you run all of the toxic shit they're dumping on you. And at the end of the day, who ends up collecting the information? Well, people that want to simulate that somehow they're entitled to pretend like they're a fucking Palestinian, which means they get to break the law, which means they get to act very, very anti-Semitic. And it also means that they, at the end of the day, have a justification for identifying somebody else as the Jew. And then they got to go take out the Jew in order to be Palestinian. And I've been watching it for years on another level, and it's absolutely fucking horrifying. And today's the anniversary. Today's the anniversary of one of the major deals that got set up in that scheme through the State Department. There were 8 of them. There were 8 so-called deals listed as, what was it? Financial assistance to the PLO. And then there was another one that was supposed to be brokered through the Palestinian Authority for U.S. aid. And see, my whole thing is, I can't believe that anybody that's actually Palestinian doesn't know about this. But I can believe that because of the socio-political reality we're in right now, that anybody that's actually Palestinian has been so dispossessed of an actual right to their own political self-representation that nobody's attempted to actually hold this accountable. And instead what's happened is a whole choreography of political opportunists within the United States that decided they were just going to play along with Palestinians and cowboys. And that's why, regardless of whatever else the Democrats say, and regardless of what the Republicans say, they never fucking hold each other accountable on this. Nobody's actually telling the truth. They're not telling the truth about the anti-Semitism, including the anti-Semitism that's part of the coinage scheme, going all the way back to the Reconstruction bonds after the Civil War, and even further, actually. And nobody's being honest about how people are simulating Muslim process as they actually steal the identities of people that are from Arab countries in order to launder tons and tons and tons of money through them, and to steal and dispossess their identities and create black ops accounts that they use for all kinds of crime. And somehow you're supposed to accept the kind of kickback scheme that's been set up as a replacement for actual political recognition because they've got other racial and ethnic groups involved now, right? They got a whole bunch of Russian accounts. They got a whole bunch of Ukrainian accounts. They got some African accounts in there too. So everybody's got a representation, up to and including the point where the Federal Reserve last autumn, what did they actually do? The Federal Reserve actually put into effect a policy of creating a national fucking crypto, explicating what's legal tender and what's non-legal tender. Cryptocurrency, convertible virtual currency. Not a goddamn policymaker in this country said anything. Nobody in the Senate said anything. Nobody in Congress said anything. And all of those little bullshit congressional hearings they had, you know, like the one where they're sitting there talking to Mark Zuckerberg, who's in the child booster seat, and every single time they say his name, they have to screw his name up. Why? I contend it's because each of them was setting up their own personal crypto on Facebook. And the things that not only Zuckerberg was connected to, but through the Zuckerberg Chan initiative, what they were connected to. So every time they screwed up his name and they said it wrong, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name. It's really hard to say it. They were coining. They were coining their own crypto based on that congressional hearing. And then they re-upped it the next year with a second issue. And because nobody said anything about it. And it's because nobody said anything about the specific role that people who are Jewish have when it comes to coinage laws in this country. It's just been going on, status quo. And people have been playing it out through this horrific, macabre murder scheme that's become the substitute for actual pension obligation. And so now we are where we are, which is that we're at the anniversary of Black September. And I've got to acknowledge that the other day, September 10th, what happened on September 10th? Well, September 10th was the 2-year anniversary of the firing of a member of Trump's former staff. And not only that, what I contend happened is they swapped out the termination of Kellyanne Conway as a former employee of Trump on his official staff with the termination, the first termination of Hope Hicks as a member of his staff. Because when Hope Hicks got fired, there was an accusation that somebody had hacked into 2 of her email accounts. That's not what happened. Those email accounts were made into dark accounts. And what happened was other people and their lives were allowed to be used as some form of substitution for the alleged hacking of her accounts. And so when Trump, presumably, and his wife and his son, and then his other son later on, but initially it was Trump, the First Lady, and his youngest son got COVID-19. They got COVID-19 with Hope fucking Hicks. And what happened on September 10th was a public announcement. Apparently, there was a video that shows that after a conference call by the CEO of Kroger, there was a public notice where presumably he had to put something in the quarterly earnings statement about organized crime. A problem is the metrics they were working with in their quarterly statement not only are my case number when it comes to trying to get articles of impeachment against the Texas State Senate, but also a percentage point that corresponds with the first announcement by the Department of Justice on how many people were arrested at the alleged Capitol riot of January 6th. I believe to the letter of the law that not only is that insider trading, but it legally qualifies as securities fraud. And if somebody's working secret deals to engage in acts of insider trading based upon communications with the FBI, because the FBI is, working with them to make sure they take care of these matters, what it sounds like is somebody's trying to bribe the FBI. See, I had no choice but to go through a court process after a fake eviction, right? And when I appealed it in what I understood to be the appropriate jurisdiction, I contend they tried to offer me a bribe. Rather, the first thing they tried to do was extort me. And when I responded to the extortion, they tried to offer me a bribe. The same day that was going down, somebody made an error on the record, and then they disappeared. My filing, that was a response. They removed it from the docket. They took what was actually a legal filing and filed it away. And I contend they did it in a direct connection with what was exposed when the CEO of Kroger had that weird, otherwise weird presentation as part of the media talking about the quarterly report. Now, the problem with this is that's actually huge, right? I haven't had one person talk to me in years. I keep getting told nobody's read my legal arguments. Obviously, he's read my legal arguments. Obviously, people on the board of Kroger have read my actual legal filings enough to actually reference by specific indication, not just metrics, by the way, what's in my actual court filings. That wasn't insurance. That wasn't financing. That wasn't investment advice. So how is it that I've been totally stalled and gaslighted and otherwise libeled before multiple jurisdictions of court, and it ends up literally appearing on CNBC as part of what would otherwise be a mandated or necessary public reporting on a quarterly earnings statement on the anniversary, the 2-year anniversary, by the way, of Kellyanne Conway leaving her job with Donald Trump. See, they engaged this proceeding on the 2-year anniversary of my birth certificate. I had to get my birth certificate, another version, because my other documents got stolen. On the 2-year anniversary, they tried to commence an eviction proceeding. On the 2-year anniversary of Kellyanne Conway leaving her job with Trump, they got a CEO of Kroger making exact, direct, precise references to my allegations of securities fraud, which, by the way, also includes pension fraud, which would have to do with severance packages that one gets upon termination from a job, up to and including a job you got fired from under the right circumstances, right? It's two accounts that presumably got hacked. You know what that means? Well, it got hacked, so I don't have any control or any say about what happens to it. It's not my fault. 2 hacks. Every single time I've tried to make a legal filing for years, there's 2 hacks that end up on the official record once it gets on the docket, including this time. You know, the problem is that because people keep one-upping this and they keep gamesmanshipping this, we've gone now 4 years where nobody's actually addressed the original charges. And so it's like we've been reset. It's like it's gone all the way 360 degrees and we're at the original place. Because the same time this happened, there was an announcement that they're going to be providing immunizations, MMR immunizations, to people coming from Afghanistan. They weren't saying that until exactly the day before the 20th anniversary of September 11th, which also happened to be the 2-year anniversary of Kellyanne Conway leaving her job with Donald Trump. I'm sorry, that specific job with the President of the United States. This is completely unacceptable. This is now the 3rd, actually the 4th, 4 presidents that are directly, literally responsible for my political disappearance. I don't believe I'm the only one, but even if I was, one is enough